Welcome to the Lansweeper Classic versus Lansweeper video. Now, you might have heard it already. We kind of use a lot of terminology regarding Lansweeper, Lansweeper Classic, cloud hosted, just to shed some light on you and make sure that it's clear for also the remaining videos. When we talk about Lansweeper Classic, we purely mean Lansweeper in its original classic form, meaning all of the components are on-premise. If you just here, Lansweeper, if I just use Lansweeper general, nothing added to it, it means it's Lansweeper in its current form, which means you have the cloud-hosted database, the cloud-hosted interface that you'll be using already if you've been starting Lansweeper recently, as well as a small on-premise component that is used to scan, meaning the scanning service that is used to scan and grab the data, and a small database there for data retention. Just to make sure that that's all clear. Now, before I talk more about Lansweeper, I'm going to go back just a tiny bit again into the past to explain to you where Lansweeper, the cloud-hosted Lansweeper, originated from, why we started it, and what the idea behind it really is. Now, Lansweeper in its classic form has existed for quite some time, but there are certain limitations in Lansweeper Classic that when we looked at how do we improve, how do we fix these issues, how do we make sure that our customers can use Lansweeper in a modern work environment, we kind of naturally came to, well, we need to have Lansweeper, something that's cloud hosted, so that we have the ability to improve and add these things. Now, one of the main pillars of the new Lansweeper experience is data aggregation. A lot of times we had big customers that had multiple Lansweeper installations, not only because they had multiple teams using Lansweeper sometimes that are spread out across the world, but also because our access management wasn't always up to snuff for a modern workplace, meaning that people that were working in IT in the US could sometimes see or could see data from the same installation that was also scanning data from the EU, which in modern times is not allowed anymore. So those are two of the main pillars. So we have data aggregation. Advanced access management was one of the main pillars as well to really start creating this new Lansweeper experience. Next up, API and integrations. We had a lot of requests to start using Lansweeper data in other solutions that can benefit greatly from the extra information and data that Lansweeper has. As well as security became a much bigger thing, where we saw that there was a great interest in security-related data, where now in Lansweeper we have security insights that actually show you and pull vulnerability data into Lansweeper itself, so you can see which assets are vulnerable to which vulnerabilities. Adding on to that, lifecycle data, being able to see when does operating system X or Y go end of life, how long do I still have, when do I need to start migrating, those sort of things. More recently, OT is becoming a whole new field, so we started also adding OT scanning to the product, and diagrams as well, being able to really get a visual overview of your network, being able to see visually which devices are connected to my switches, where are they located, which groups are bundled together, do I have assets where there's no connection whatsoever, that are kind of just shadow IT or floating around, those kind of things. All of those things kind of create what now is the new Lansweeper experience and kind of were the foundation of creating the cloud-hosted Lansweeper as it is today. Now, if you want to have a full overview of what is really in the cloud-hosted version of Lansweeper and what is in Lansweeper Classic, we do have a KB article. I don't have the time to go through the entire list of all of the different things and all of the advantages of the Classic versus what is in the current Lansweeper experience. You're better off going to the KB article and getting the full list there. And that way you can also specifically search for things that you're interested in that fit your use case. So you can make sure that you know which version of Lansweeper you need to run. Now, lastly, I've talked a bit about the Lansweeper Classic setup, and that you have your database, your service, and also your on-premise web console. If you're new to Lansweeper, you might have noticed that you might not be able to find how do I get to this Lansweeper Classic web console that you've been talking about. Simply said, you have to go, and we'll link it as well, you have to follow a KB article to make sure that you enable the on-premise web console, and then you can start using it and exploring it if you need to use any of the functionality that still remains in that. So with that, we've come to the end of this video, so you can head over to the next video to learn more.